My name is Kyle Pinckard. I'm the frontman and lead guitar player for Crowning Thieves. We're a local metal band here in Phoenix, Arizona. Music has been a part of my life as long as I can remember. Um, Growing up, I'd listen to my dad play guitar. Each of my brothers kind of picked it up in turn, but they never really stuck with it. And for some reason, I just did. I took a guitar class in 7th grade, and I was just hooked from there. Just learning songs that had come up on the radio, and eventually I started writing my own, and the rest is history. I started the band right around 2015. Member by member, we kind of built it over the course of the next couple of years through the school in the performance program there. And ever since then, we've just been on kind of a nonstop, you know, momentum rush. We've just been trying to pick up as much steam as we can. A couple of highlights that I can name, like for instance, the Ailstorm show in September of last year of 2018 was just unbelievable. The crowd was insane. Another really big thing for us was dropping our music video this April. It was a blast having that show, having all of these bands join us, including our boy here with Wrath Upon Eden. Super emotional experience for us, getting to see how the crowd received that video that we put so much work into, that single that we spent all that time producing and making sure it was just right. And then I would say the most recent one was the show with Powerman 5000. We got to hang out backstage with them. We got to meet Spider, such a cool guy. The show itself was an absolute blast, and the party after was, well, you know how we party. It's hard for me to really say. The first time I guess that I noticed it was way back in the 6th grade. Um, you know, the way a lot of artists come up, I spent a lot of time by myself. Didn't have a lot of friends, found it hard to relate with people, and pretty soon I kind of found myself in this spiral of not being able to relate with people, just feeling like there was a wall there. I didn't really know what to call it. Felt kind of, you know, self-centered to call it depression at the time, so I just kind of grinned and bore it, and it showed its face many times in many different ways throughout my life. But it was only recently, just January of this year, that I got an actual, you know, diagnosis and came head to head with the fact that, yeah, this is clinical depression. It's not a game, dude. I think like many people who have depression, it just has its ups and its downs. There's, you know, good times where life seems to be going okay and you can kind of put it on the back burner and not think about it too much. And then there's other times when, you know, life happens, bad stuff happens, you know, personal relationships fail, you lose family members, little things like that can send you into a spiral, you know. Even just not being productive enough with my work because my art is an expression of who I am and what I am, and that's part of the way that I get a release for it is through my art. So if I'm not busy enough on that, I can get really depressed. Um, so I would say that out of all of the things that typically accentuate someone's depression, it's probably the worst when I am not doing my art enough or unable to do my art due to, you know, injuries, health reasons, whatever. For a lot of years, I think I did. In the beginning, like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand it. It seemed kind of self-centered to me at the time to try and get attention from people for it, but at the same time, you know, to a certain degree, that's kind of what I was doing. Um, so, like I said, it showed its face in all kinds of ways as I was growing up. It wasn't something that I really came to other people about. I found, like I said, I found it really hard to relate with other people, so it's hard to talk about that with someone at a face-to-face level. Um, so yeah, I would say over the years I definitely hit it a lot, and that definitely didn't help. But I think like many people, I was probably just scared to come to terms with it with myself, and even more scared to share that reality with the people around me. That, you know, it's not something I'm trying to be selfish about. It's just something that affects me. What thoughts didn't go through my head during my darkest times? You can, you know, being the person that I am, my brain is hyperactive. I'm always thinking about something. I'm always working on something. So depression can take a single scenario that, may or may not be all that bad by itself, and give you 1,000 different possibilities of how it could be that much worse. Like, you don't just see one worst case scenario, you see every worst case scenario that could possibly exist. It drives you crazy. So, on the personal level, that affected a lot of relationships and a lot of friendships while I was growing up and coming to terms with how to deal with this kind of thing. And, at the personal level, just between me, myself, and I mean, how dark does it get? You have all of those thoughts. You have, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't belong no matter how hard I try? Suicidal thoughts to the max, man. Like, there were a couple of years there where it was one every few minutes. See a rope or a cord and think, I know what I'd do with that. See a blade or even just a piece of glass and think, I know what I'm going to do with that. And just making it through the day at that point becomes like that's your Everest. Like, that's the mountain you have to climb. It's just making it through the day because you're your own worst enemy. But those aren't the only kind of thoughts that go through my head. You get to a certain point when you're depressed where you very clearly see two paths diverging in front of you. One is towards that darkness, and all kinds of people go that way, especially in our day and age. You look for a release from the pain of everyday life, which, I have a good life. It shouldn't be that painful. So the whole time you're experiencing that guilt too. But the other path is, pull yourself up. You can do this. It's hard as hell, and, a lot of people aren't going to understand how much of a challenge that is. I believe the statistic is 1 in 8 people in the world have depression. It's the most common human affliction that there is. And yet, you can feel like you're totally alone fighting this thing. So, a lot of people aren't going to be able to relate with that struggle, but, every day is waking up and picking path number 2, is choosing to make the best out of whatever you got. Take your lemons and make lemonade, right? I think I expected one thing and really got another. Um, Being depressed, one of the first things that your brain tells you when you think about bringing this to other people, your family, your friends, your brain tells you they won't understand. They'll set you apart. They'll shut you out. Whatever it tells you that day. But it really wasn't like that, because I went into my doctor's office that one day and just told him what was going on, answered a few questions honestly, the way I saw it. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting in a room with a crisis team for 4 to 6 hours, getting interviewed to make sure I wasn't going to hurt myself. And it was the most preposterous thing. But going through that, my family kind of realized that, yeah, we have to take this seriously too, because this clearly isn't just a one-off thing, or just, me feeling sorry for myself. Was the way that I looked at it for years. So I think they were really understanding. If anything, it brought me a lot closer to them, because they understood where that space in my head was coming from, why it seemed like I might be aloof, or setting myself apart, or even seeming antisocial sometimes, just because I just didn't know how to deal with people. I'm doing a lot better now that I've taken some real time to understand it, um, to, if not make my peace with it, at least understand how to get through the day. I think, depression tends to push you into a corner, tends to make you want to shut yourself in and, lay around and do nothing. And I found that it's a self-inflicting cycle. The more that you hide away and lock yourself in, the more depressed you're going to get. So the best way that I found for battling it is, going out to shows, being among my friends, or doing recording sessions, staying busy on music, trying to learn something new. Those little things bring me a feeling of, accomplishment. Um, And that feeling of accomplishment is like the polar opposite of depression. Depression makes you feel like you're nothing and that you're never going to make anything that's worth anything, that you're never going to amount to anything. And that accomplishment in and of itself is sort of a like, here, look at this fucker, you know? I made this, I did this, I achieved it in spite of you. And that's been the best way that I've found to fight it. I would tell them to never, ever, 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 ever give up. And no matter how alone you feel, I don't care how corny it sounds because it's the absolute truth. No matter how alone you feel, you are never alone fighting this. Uh, you might have heard me say, I believe the statistic is 1 in 8 people are afflicted by depression. You are never alone. And I would say find something that makes you really happy. If you are serious about fighting this, find something that makes you really happy and chase it down. Fight for it, because that's going to be what will get you out of the hole.